One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition. It is the Friday edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. It's October 26, 2012. And tonight I am joined by fellow radio show host, Afghan war vet, and friend, Sergeant Ryan Brooks. And Ryan, there is a ton of stuff to go over tonight, so let's get right into it. It's good to see someone of your generation that actually thinks. And you enlighten me to a lot of the stuff about the younger crowd now. Not that I'm an old fogey, but the younger generations below me. We have some pretty good conversations off air about that stuff, and I wanted to get into a lot of that tonight. I'm going to pick your brain on a few things, but don't feel like you're being interviewed or anything. Like I told you, we're just, it's like two guys chilling beers, shooting the shit on air, basically. That's about what it's going to be. So the first thing I want to get into, which I just brought up, is the younger generations are now speaking in actual, I guess you could call it text-ese. Is that would be a good term for it? Text-ese? Is that what we should call it?
Yeah, I'd say you could use that.
And people are going to ask us what that is. What's text-ese, Ryan? That's if I said to Ryan in a message, LOL, like laughing out loud, if Ryan and I were standing in a room next to each other and I said to him, lol. And I was surprised by this. Ryan brought this to my attention the other day, and I was like, what? And what's the other one? The for laughing my ass off? What do they say?
The kids are saying LMAO.
Because they type in LMAO, laughing my ass off. And now they're actually saying this. Instead of saying, instead of laughing, right? Instead of being animated and being a human, they just look at each other and go, LMAO.
Pretty much. I mean, I kind of tried to go in detail about it on my show on Monday, just breaking down how our language is under attack. I mean, our minds are under attack, what we believe, what we think, how we communicate, and it definitely shows with the younger generation. I mean, I resisted a long time from saying, or typing rather, we've got to make this clear, typing LOL and LMAO and things like that. And just talking with other, men and women around me in Washington, talking with guys from Australia and around the country here in America about kids, their kids in school, et cetera, et cetera. I've heard from numerous people that the kids now are saying things like, like you said, you say a funny joke, and instead of saying, oh, haha, that's funny, whoa, no, it's just lol. And I guess if it's really funny, then you say, LMAO. I mean, it's very Orwellian, very, very strange stuff.
Wow. There's just, I know people are getting dumbed down, but when I hear people are saying, like, text words or text-ese, whatever you want to call it, as real speech, it's just, they're
right.
They're dumbing people down, dude. It's so frustrating.
Right, and I mean, I'm really big into the 1984 comparison, because if we go back and look at that book, the proles, the masses, you, me, and all the listeners, we don't have, or we're not going to have, and they're trying to do this, in my opinion, we won't even have words to describe, just like in 1984. They didn't even have words to describe dissent or rebellion. Freedom could not be used in the terms that we still can use it today, because people didn't even understand what it meant. And when we have children who think that you spell great, GR8, and they're dead serious, that's how they think they spell it, and adults, people my age, saying, BRB, that's a lot more than just, a silly thing that kids do, in my opinion. I think it's much worse.
It's conditioning. The whole populace is being conditioned. Dude, I see women my age, mid to late 30s, even in their 40s, screaming like little girls at Justin Bieber concerts. And I'm like, what? Like, hello? That kid could be your son, first of all, so that's kind of disgusting, okay? Be an adult. And second of all, why are you buying into this cult of personality crap? But they do it, and it's just... it's frustrating when you see it. And I actually have friends that they buy into a cult of personality like that, or, that garbage. I've caught some of my friends, now that I actually notice, since I noticed it before, but now because of what you and I were talking about, I've paid attention a bit more, I guess you could say. And I've noticed that even certain friends I have that are in their 40s are starting to do the same thing with the BRB,
yes,
and LOL, and it's like whoa. I actually catch myself, like, a lot of times if I'm typing fast, my brain, and it's because I made it a habit. Instead of typing YOUR, I'll type UR. Well, that's wrong. I'm not trying. And so now if I type something out, I look, and if I see that I typed, little shortcuts, I'll go back and erase them, and I type out the full word, or whatever it is that, sentence or saying, whatever, because I'm trying to, change up my own lexicon inside my own brain. I'm trying to reprogram myself. Like, I'm not perfect. I make the same mistakes I tell people to look out for. So I just tell people to look out for them, because I've gone through it. I've made the mistake. So I can say, hey, I did this. This is what, I found. Keep an eye out for it. But I go through the same thing to this very day. I have to change my own lexicon, dude, because I don't want to be one of these program morons. Because I'll tell you what, it's like a brave new world, man. You're watching the conditioning of society right before your very eyes.
I agree, Popeye, and it's kind of a situation where we're at in so many things, where we're given the ability to have the convenience factor, and we are encouraged to, and I don't know, I guess it's more of a philosophy debate, if you say, is it human nature or not, to choose to do the easier thing rather than the harder thing. But just like you're saying, it's easier just to type letter U, letter R, and then a smiley face, or LOL or something like that, and it's convenient. And then now, because it's convenient, it's trendy and cool, the masses are onto it. And then you bring in Facebook, Twitter, texting. Now it's just everybody's doing it. If you don't know what LMAO means, then you're like, oh, whoa, guy, you're way behind, not cool, not hip. But at the same time, it's so much worse than that, because just like you said, there's adults who are older than us who are saying BRB and doing it because they think it's cool and hip. Kids who don't even know how to spell the word great. and it is literally dumbing down and controlling our language. In the military, I know you know this. I mean, we say 4-letter words every other word. It seems like, filth, flying filth, as Bill Cosby would say. But and then you go out in public, and it's almost just as bad. It's like just a degradation of society, just beating down the language,
or using using terms in the wrong way. Mm-hmm. Not having any idea what the hell like actually misusing a word to the point where I've seen it actually used in the exact words used in the exact opposite of what they really mean, and people have no idea, none.
Right, and the other thing about it is, we put a smiley face in a chat room, and I'm guilty of it just like you and a lot of other listeners. I see in the chat people are having a good time with the little abbreviations, but the way I look at it is, every time you type LOL, it means a little bit less, and so many people that have Facebook, and I'm not picking on anybody individually, I just deleted mine and I'm never going back, but it's like, how far are we away from, and I'm sure the listeners know of somebody they know who's out there on Facebook saying, I'm so sad today, or I just had a grilled cheese sandwich. And everyone's got friends that they probably don't know on Facebook for the most part. How close are we to an algorithm or a computer program where you're on Facebook saying, I feel bad, and then all of a sudden the computer program just pops, cheer up, buddy, it's okay. I mean, and is that going to make you happy? I mean, it's really our humanity slowly being taken from us, and I think focusing on the language is a great way to kind of look at it. One other thing, Popeye, when I was on Sol Veneur's show on a Sunday a couple weeks back, I mean, this guy lives in the Netherlands, and he was dominating me about the English language and just, nouns and adverbs and prefixes and pronunciations and whatnot, and that's his second language. And I was on his show, an American, I only know English, and he was just absolutely making a fool of me. So, I'm no better than anybody else, but just trying to be aware of this stuff and realizing, hey, when you say LOL,
well, they speak the Queen's English. They're taught the Queen's English.
Proper.
Yes, and we're not taught. We have American slang ease, and that's pretty much what it is. Everybody speaks slang now, dude. I catch myself doing it. I say dude all the time. That's a word that goes to show my generation. That was the word of. That was thrown around when I was a kid. It was dude or bro. I don't say bro. I try not to say that. I can't. I actually, if it's actually meaningful when someone says it, like, look, bro, I got your back or something like that. That's different. But like, I can't stand when people walk around going, bro. Remember, I don't know. You might be too young to remember Valley Girl speak. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, I was a kid but when that came out. But also, I mean, what's with that movie that even when I was little, I thought it was so stupid. Dude, where's my car?
Oh, you see
dude,
that?
Dude. I
mean,
and
you know how many people I know that think that movie is hysterically funny? And I watched it once, okay? And I couldn't even get like halfway through it, and I had to get up. And they're like, what's the matter? I'm like, dude, where's my brain, okay? It's oozing out of my ear from watching this movie. I need to go outside and holy crap. I mean, that's the stuff that they put out there to dumb down the general public. People laugh at that. It's like we live in idiocracy, dude. Remember they would have...
I was just going to say that. I mean, look at that stupid show that everybody watched on Idiocracy, Ouch My Balls. And they almost had an exact replication.
It's called Jackass.
Yeah, well, not only that, but that guy on America's Got Talent or whatever, that guy named Horse. I don't know if you saw this, but the guy goes on stage and just has his friends hit him in the testicles and smash cinder blocks on his testicles. He breaks 2x4s with his testicles. And the worst part about it, Popeye, I did some research. This guy's got his own show now where he just smashes his testicles all the time. It really is Ouch My Balls, and it's already on TV right now. LeMayo,
And people, I bet you that thing gets more hits in a day than...
Billions.
Yeah, than something with even the slightest amount of truth to it.
Making us look bad, man.
You ever wonder if there's... Because I don't think that we're the top of the food chain in the universe, okay? And I'm not going to get too far off on a tangent here, but you ever wonder if there's whatever species out and, whatever, if you want to call them aliens or whatever the frig you want to call them, that are floating around out in space, and they're just watching us like a bunch of monkeys in a zoo flinging poop at each other. We must be the most entertaining reality television show in the entire universe. Earth.
Absolutely. I mean, just look at it from this perspective, Popeye. If you roll up on America and you're just looking from outside the box, a majority of this country, their life and the things that they want, the things that they desire, the leaders, with air quotes, that they vote for, pretty much so much of their life is dictated by a box that shows pictures with sound. I mean, hey, I'm right there with you. I mean, just
I'm telling you, they have like their own version of Dish Network, whatever the hell it's called, and tonight on Earth,
sock puppet debates,
right? Like, and it must be entertaining because there's like different countries they can tune into to see all the different retardedness on different levels.
And the thing about it, you know, like when you're a human being, I suppose, when you're us, when you're you, when you're me, when you're listeners in the chat, anyone who's listening, and you wake up, you start to see it like that. And I think from there, that's when it starts to make you mad because you're like, oh, good God, like people, how come you can't see what you are? Can't you see what's going on? And of course, you know, it leads down a road of despair and depression for a while because a lot of people, just like the Matrix, they do not want to be unplugged, and they will not be unplugged until they are forced to.
Well, because it's too uncomfortable. Some people, it's too paradigm shattering. I guess it's too mind blowing. The information's too scary, man. You know, oh my God, we've been lied to. I have people tell me, if I accept what you tell me as fact, that means that everything I've been told my whole life is a lie. And I'm like, yeah, pretty much. You know, I'm not trying to be the guy that pisses in your cornflakes yet. That is kind of what I'm doing, is pissing in your corn. Like, I'm not trying to beat you over the head with it or do you any harm. Usually the messenger is the one that gets, you know, the hate because you're the one you're the first one there showing this information. You know, back in the day, the kings and stuff used to usually kill the messenger. So nobody wanted to be the messenger.
Right.
Did they have anything to say? Nope. They said everything was cool. See you for a smoke on Friday.
I mean, you're right on the money with it, though. I mean, during my awakening experience, it started when I was in the military, and I'm a talkative guy. I'm a personable guy. I always have been. So when I started learning things and I was accepting them as like, wow, okay, this isn't a conspiracy theory that Chris Matthews says or something, you know. I wanted to talk to others about it that I served with, and they all, I mean, just like you said, I was getting shot every day, literally, you know, from being the messenger. Like, oh, Brooks questions 9/11. He thinks the Russians did it. And then I had like a group of people like jumping up and down like monkeys, laughing and pointing at me, and it would just make it worse. Like, wow, seriously? Yes, seriously. That's where we're at, you know.
But you know, I hope you looked at that from the standpoint of, wow, these people are retarded. It's not me, but damn, these people are freaking dumb, because that's the way it is. I've had that. See, I know a lot of people that they let that kind of experience beat them back. You know, I got made fun of. Dude, I had an army guy, active duty army guy, one day throw a DVD at me from a moving car. We were giving them out in the street corner, and the light turned green, and they started taking off. And he hangs out the window and goes, "You're not a real veteran," and he whips it at me. He whipped the DVD at me, and they drove off. And one of the guys that was standing next to me, he wanted to literally chase the car down. And I was like, and I'm usually a hothead. And I was like, no, man, let it go. And he's like, well, aren't you mad? I mean, you're a vet. I said, no, dude, he's dumb. He's an idiot. Look how stupid he is. I feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for how pathetic that person is as a human being. That's I don't have to go physically assault the guy, or I don't have to bring it back down to that level. I'm already above that, and I look at him and go, man, I pity you. I kind of feel a little bit of pity inside for how stupid you are, you know. And at the end of the day, you know, I'm not trying to be arrogant, but you can't let that kind of crap get to you, dude. And I know so many people that you know, it bothers them, it pisses them off. They're, oh, you know, somebody told me that I wasn't a good American citizen. You know, I'm a good citizen. I'm doing this. But who cares what somebody says to you on a street corner if you're handing out DVDs? You best be prepared to get confronted when you're handing out DVDs on the street corner. Most people, I've had some of the most interesting conversations, ranging from peaceful to people getting all emotional. The government would never do that. I remember back in the day when people didn't even believe the Federal Reserve was a private entity. They thought it was a federal agency.
Right, and you questioning it, that's a conspiracy theory. I mean, Papa, I have friends who were holding up 9/11 truth banners back when I was just sleeping, and they'd have people get out of their cars and pull guns on them, saying, "How dare you? This is, the Danny Bonaducci, this is my government, this is my president, how dare you?" And they have a gun, like, ready to shoot, just because of the sign that said investigate 9/11. And obviously that's not all natural. There's the traumatic, mind control type elements in there. But also, getting back to what you're saying about not being mad at them, absolutely. And I think once
they idolize them too. They idolize people too, like.
Oh, definitely.
Danny Bonaducci, and I don't know why people even take him seriously. Like I know everybody is, independently important and everything and blah, 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 blah. But honestly, Danny Bonaducci, like, his opinion means nothing to me. Honestly. I don't care. He thinks he's a tough guy. Oh, I'll kick your ass. Oh, okay, Bonaducci, shut your mouth. You work out and you fight sometimes. Wah, you're a tough guy. You trying to make up for your years on the Partridge Family because you were a douchebag when you were younger? Well, you're still a douche, okay? His opinion means nothing. And when people like that are, how dare you, or Bill Clinton, how dare you, when Luke Rudowski stood up to him, he's 9/11 was an inside job. How dare you? See, if I was Luke, because at the time Luke was a little bit younger, I would have turned around as soon as he said that and been like, how dare you bring drugs in through Mena, Arkansas, have the state police kill 2 kids on the tracks, and you cover it up.
And not only that, but it totally backs up what you're talking about as far as, worshiping people. How are the people going to let the elected person, such as Bill Clinton, they're supposed to work for us? So how's that guy going to get off saying, how dare you? When it's like, wait a minute, you should work for me. But no, all the people were like, kill him, Bill, yeah. They just get in like that herd, collective hive mind. And next thing you know, you're the odd guy out. Yeah. You're the crazy one. You're the funny one.
Bill Clinton, you told that crazy conspiracy theorist off. Yay. And you hear all the clapping. Yay. And you're like clapping for your own demise, lemmings.
Right, and I just want to add real quick about Danny Bonaducci. The reason why I brought him up, Popeye, is because he is one of the most famous radio hosts in Seattle. So if I turn on Sheeple Radio, it's Danny Bonaducci in the mornings, talking about absolutely nothing important at all. And it is just, it's frustrating, but I try to stay calm and just brush it off, man. Not worth getting angry about, I feel sorry for the guy. He's going to learn one day. It's all good.
Wow. That's what they listen to out there? Is Danny Bonaducci? I didn't know that. I knew he was on radio, but I didn't.
Station, dude, it's horrible. And he's on all these commercials selling mattresses and all kinds of garbage. Every time I hear his voice, I change the station. I will not tolerate him.
Good. God, Danny Bonaducci. Ugh. What a way. I won't even go there because it'll just be ad hominem attack after ad hominem attack. I'll leave it at this. There's better choices to listen to than that. We are definitely being dumbed down, without a doubt. We're being dumbed down and attacked on multiple levels. All week I've been talking about the GMOs, smart meters. I got Bob Tuscan coming on Sunday. We're going to talk about getting out into the middle of nowhere and some solutions and stuff. But we are being attacked on all levels. And the intellectual one is one of the biggest ways we're being attacked, because if we can get people to not think and not even use their brains, then you've won, because it's not hard to defeat somebody. When you've mentally defeated people, it's not hard to physically manhandle them. During the break, Ryan gave me a link to this Newspeak dictionary from 1984, and if you read some of the definitions of some of the things that they have in the book, it's very similar to what they're trying to condition people to right now. Like crime think. To even consider any thought that is not in line with the principle of INSOC, which is the controlling government. So replace that with to even consider any thought not in line with the principles of whatever dictator you put in power, whether it be Obama or Romney or whoever, whatever puppet dictator they put in there next after these two, whoever gets in. I mean, this is the stuff that they want to push on people. That's why it's important to dumb people down. It's important to make people stupid, because then, like if you're Ryan, if you're not intelligent and if you're not plugged in, I guess, if you're drinking the Kool-Aid, if you're allowing your thoughts to be made for you, then you won't even see this. To you, this will be normal. But if you even have the slightest bit of trying to be yourself or individuality inside of you, you'll look. People should look at this. Look at the similarities between the book, 1984, A Brave New World. Go read A New World Order by Orwell, or not Orwell. What's his name? H.G. Wells. Just read those three books. Read 1984, A Brave New World, and A New World Order by H.G. Wells, and then come back and tell me that we're not living in this future that they actually wanted to create. It's really creepy, especially, dude, as I'm talking to you, I'm just reading through all the things on here. I mean, we've talked about doublethink and everything like that, but does anybody know what doublethink is, by the way? I bet you some people don't. According to Orwell in his book, it's a simultaneous belief in two contradictory ideas. So I think 9/11 was an inside job perpetrated by the government, but I think the government's correct when they say 19 Muslims came in and attacked it with planes and took it down, and that they had no warning whatsoever, and that the Afghan war is justified. That's literally doublethink. Don't you experience that in your everyday life when you deal with people, when you have conversations with people? Because I know you're out there being active. You've gotten hassled by cops for putting signs up and stuff. So don't you deal with that? I deal with people that engage in doublethink all the time.
Well, you've got doublethink, cognitive dissonance, learned helplessness, Stockholm syndrome, normalcy bias. I mean, that's a combination, I suppose, of science and the domination of our language. Excuse me, but you're right, Popeye. I mean, you see the Obama supporters. I saw some guys in the chat talking about Luke Radalski, and he just came out with this new video where he walks around New York and asks people questions, and he says all these things that Obama has done. He finds people that say, I'm going to vote for Obama, and then he asks them like 10 different things that Obama's done, and he says Mitt Romney's going to do it, like NDAA, things like that. So the people are all like, oh, yeah, Willard is evil. And at the very end, he's like, well, actually, I lied. That's all stuff Obama's done. And they still, even after saying that's just so un-American, absolutely evil, I can't believe Mitt would do that, that's why I'm voting Obama. And then Luke says, hey, that's what Obama's doing. They still say, well, that's where the cognitive dissonance comes in. That's where the doublethink comes in. Like, yeah, I did say that detaining Americans indefinitely is just un-American and horrible, and I'd never support that, but Obama's my guy, so I got to support him. I mean, that is doublethink right there.
Well, even engaging in voting is complete doublethink, at least to me. I mean,
right.
And people get mad at me for saying this. Well, are you for anarchy? No vote is a wasted vote. No, I just refuse to take part in a system that's completely rigged and that I don't obviously I don't have a say in.
Right, so, and not to mention when you register to vote and they record who you voted for and everything. I mean, it's just another way for them to data mine you, track you. I mean, you know about that app that the Democrat Party released. You can download it for free on your smartphone where it'll tell you the name and age and location of Democrats in your area. So you could say, oh, Bethel, 68, lives a mile away from me. She's a Democrat. I mean, okay, sounds good, but come on. I mean, really? What else do you think people are going to do with that?
Yeah, see, I just don't buy. Like, the whole reason I don't vote, and we carried the third-party presidential debates on this past Tuesday, and I spoke to Jimmy X, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure, I think it's this Tuesday, you tune in. We're going to be carrying the second third-party presidential debate as well, and I'm sure we'll end up doing commentary like we did afterwards. I was, of course, the guy that was pissing in everyone's cornflakes after it, and saying that I thought it was the debate, that the first one anyway, was a joke. And when I say it's a joke, it's not because of the candidates or anything like that, or third party or blah, blah, blah. I thought the way they made the third parties look was very childish compared to the way they tried to make the Democrat-Republican debate look. You know, they tried to come off like that was some serious, fight between these two bigwig contenders. And then, I don't know, Larry King, even though people say that, he's just, that's just Larry being Larry. I don't know. He did things like he screwed up. They forgot to do the introductions before the first question and things like that. I don't know. To me, a quote-unquote seasoned pro wouldn't do that. And I'm not saying that Larry's not capable of making mistakes or anything, but what if he just purposely made a couple extra big mistakes? It looked very buffoonish to me. And then a lot of the questions, there wasn't that many questions asked, and the ones that were asked, some of them were good. I mean, they discussed NDAA. The war on drugs did come up, but there was a lot of things that were left to be desired, I thought. A lot.
Oh, I agree. And my guest that I had on yesterday, he would be like chomping at the bit to try to talk to us right now about, no, we can still change it, and we need to vote for the Liberty candidates and all this stuff. However, even he said, that debate was just trash. I mean, that was supposed to be a philosophical debate, really letting the world know what are the third-party candidates about. And Popeye, I don't follow them enough to even know the difference between the candidates as far as what's the biggest difference between the Libertarian Party and the Constitutionalist Party, whereas, it wasn't a philosophical debate. I felt like a couple of them were pandering to the Ron Paul supporters, like, Ron Paul's my hero, just like so kind of almost as cheesy as the mainstream. And then the other ones just bashed on stuff that was completely obvious. Now, I would say it's good if it woke somebody up, if somebody new is like, I'm going to look into this because I don't really like the candidates, and they see it, they're like, wow, okay, positive. But to give people hope like this is going to do anything, and I don't want to sound like a defeatist or a pessimist, but at the same time, I mean, like you're saying, it wasn't even done very well. It was kind of a joke.
Well, you're not being a defeatist. It's, look, do you want to waste your time and energy? Some people aren't going to want to, maybe this is the last time they're going to want to give their energy into something like this. And if they could be on the fence. And if they get disappointed, they'll never, they might get so disenfranchised, they'll never come back. You could push, you could alienate people. I don't know. It's just, it could have been handled better. And I know people are going to say, well, it was grassroots, and I'm not bashing anybody. I'm not. It was, at least there was, at the very least, there was an alternative to the regular puppet show. But at the end of the day, I think that the real answer does not lie in who we put in office, because the problem is the fact that office has become something that it was never intended to be to begin with. The presidency has become something like, superhero status. And originally, the presidency was nothing more than, managership at McDonald's. It wasn't. So he was supposed to manage the government, and that's it. He wasn't supposed to be this, the shit hits the fan, call the president. He comes in with his cape. Whoosh. I'm the president of the United States. The Marines are at my right, the Navy at my left. Come on, stop. That's, you know what I mean? Like, they make this the presidency, this position, to be out to be a superhero. Look how many people are, the Obama phone chick, perfect example. Those people are reliant on him giving out those phones to be able to have that phone service and whatever else they get. You know what I mean? So it's like, to them, even though it's controlled, like from an outsider's position, I understand they're being baited and everything, but you see they're using this appeal to this quote-unquote superhero status of the president. Like, he gave me a phone. He gave me a couple $100 when he got into office. I mean, how awesome is that? He's a hero. He's not a hero. Are you kidding me?
Well, the thing is, Popeye, they've done a very good job of getting so many people, and it's easier, once again, back to that philosophical kind of, debate, rather, about it's easier, or are people going to do the easier thing, or are they going to do the thing that's harder, even if it's the right thing? And it's easier today to get help from the government. They'll give you a phone, they give you food, they give you your retirement, they give, 60% nearly of Americans are employed by the federal government. Not all Americans, I'm saying people that have a job, almost 60% of them are some type of federal government or state government jobs. We are dependent on the system, and just like you're talking about, the people that depend on the system, now, they only want to vote for the guy who promises to give them more of the treasure. And we don't have any treasure. This is all going to pop. And I feel like, I used to fear it, and it used to drive me crazy, and it was very scary. But now I feel like it's actually an opportunity for good, because all of these people who have been conditioned and trained into submitting and relying on this system, they will have no choice but to wake up to reality and realize that the get-rich-quick, the instant gratification way of life is not what we're on this planet for. We are here to be our truest and best self, and the system we're in right now does not encourage that at all. I mean, look at people like you. I mean, you're out there doing all you can to get the truth out, and just like you said, you get demonized, people laugh at you, throw stuff at you, and you're just trying to do the right thing. Tell the truth. And look at how evil and scary that is today. It's just all a big buildup,
Well, people, like you said, you can get all freaky and upset. Things are going to change. Things are never going to be the same they were before 9/11, so that's one, okay? Everybody keeps trying to, we need to go back to the way things used to be. No, we can't. You're learning, you're evolving. It's impossible for you to go back unless you de-evolve, which in that case, then we're going to go back to like the Dark Ages, and it's going to be hell on earth. Okay, it's not going to be let's rewind to when I thought it was okay. It wasn't okay then either. You just didn't know. Things have not been okay for a very long time. Now, do we allow things to continue on the same path? Well, they obviously cannot. Do we prepare for a different type of future? And I don't mean, oh, God, it's going to be hell on earth. You have to hide out in bunkers. And it's not like that. I mean, if you want to get through this, the easiest way to get through this is that we all evolve. Part of that evolution is making these controllers and their control paradigm irrelevant. So just make them irrelevant. That's what a lot of people are doing. A lot of people are moving out to the country. A lot of people are trying to, get off the grid. And that's why you get people that like the sovereign movement. People are like, you'll see them, oh, aren't they cop killers? And no, they're not. I mean, I'm sure there are a couple nutbags in the group. There always are. Some of them are probably half the people out there calling for violence, or usually more than half of them are feds, no matter what group you're in. But being sovereign, you are a sovereign being. When you're born into this world, the government doesn't automatically have control over you. They want you to believe that that's the way it is. The government is there to make sure that things go the way that it's supposed to. Well, let me ask you something. How did the American Indians, or I don't even want to call them American Indians, how did the natives that were here before we came over here, or before the people, the founders of this country came over here, the pilgrims, the natives, how did they live without government? How did their horse paths and stuff get cut out and carved? How did they go out and hunt down food? How did they do that? They had a hierarchical structure. Yes, they had structure, but they didn't have government. They didn't have the idea of government. And I'm not saying that the Indians didn't battle amongst each other and stuff like that, but they didn't have government the way we know it. And they got along fine. They managed to get along. They survived. They persevered, of course, until we came over and effed things up. But they were able to survive, right? So there's your answer. You don't need the government to build roads, and the anti-statists are going to love this, because I agree with them. I don't like to put myself in any one category. I understand the philosophy of a lot of different people, but when it comes to like statism, you don't need the damn government to build a road for you. You don't. In fact, and I'm not saying, privatize the hell out of everything. No, you don't need to privatize things either, because that's just another trap. That's getting all these, like we did with the prison industrial complex. No, all you need to do is have the citizens themselves volunteer to take care of things, and that's how things get done. And then if there is a little bit of corruption here or there, or ego issues, it can be solved. It can be handled. But it's much easier to do all that stuff and have everything flow if it's based on a voluntary thing. Look, I was a volunteer firefighter for 6 years. My father was a volunteer firefighter for, 15 or 18 years. My uncle was on for 15 or 18 years, something like that, or maybe it was 20 years. My brother was on for 11 years. We all volunteered and did our thing, and there were days that we might have been late to work or whatever, or something happened, blah, blah, blah. But that was, we signed up for it. We chose if we went to that fire call or if we didn't. We carried the radio on us. They're called plectrons. We carried them on our hips 24/7. When there was a fire call, if you could go, you went. There was, I think, if I remember correctly, in my house, we had I think it was a little over 50, maybe it was 70-something guys in total with all the old guys too. But you'd have about, to pick from a crew of about, normally it was the same crew of about 20 to 25 guys that would show up for fires. And it worked. I mean, people showed up. There were times it was skeleton crews and you'd have to go and, do a little morale boosting to get people to come down. And, maybe people were getting caught up in their own lives because it's a volunteer organization. But they work. Things still get done. It amazes me when people think that the government's going to come in and solve all your problems. From what I noticed throughout my entire life, what I've learned is every time the government gets involved in any way, shape, or form, it usually turns to shit. Let's just be straight up honest about it.
And I'll tell you, Popeye, I mean, and this isn't to anybody in particular, but our society as a whole, I mean, we are encouraged to go to the state or the government for everything. You got a problem with your neighbor, call the police on them. And things of that nature. You could go on and on where you're depending on somebody else. And that's what has gotten, or definitely helped in getting us to the place that we're at, where people they would not be able to be self-dependent at all if they had to be. And just kind of touching on where we're going as a nation, as a species. I mean, I do feel like the economic collapse is inevitable, but also I'm not going to buy into that whole, a boot stepping on a human's face for eternity and a new dark age as far as, the technocratic elite running it with robots and all of this. Because once this happens, people are going to want to know then, once their savings gets wiped out and they don't have food and there's riots and all these other horrible things, they're going to want answers for what happened. And the elite who succeed by secrecy, they're not going to have secrecy anymore. They're going to be running for cover. There's not going to be more centralization of power. There's going to be decentralization of power. It's going to go down to the most local and responsive level. And yes, it'll be ugly, but I think that's just going to be a temporary phase. I like to talk about the 5 stages of grief. You have your denial phase, and that's what our society is in now. We will go through the anger phase when the dollar collapses, but that's only going to be short. I don't know how long. I can't tell you the future, but I don't think it's going to be very long. It is going to be horrible. It'll probably shake the faith of humanity, but then we're going to get through it, and then we're going to start over. We're going to be in the depression phase, trying to figure out what happened. Where can we go from here? And I mean, hey, humanity does have an opportunity. We're going to be looking at things differently, to say the least.
But we don't have to go through all of that the way that it's mapped out, if you even think about it. There's a way that this could still be a controlled thing, and there's going to be a transition. The question is, do we allow them to take it off flying off the cliff in a flaming spectacle and crashing into a huge fireball, and then having them pose as our saviors because they've got the answer to that problem already created, at least in their minds? Or do we stop it, or put the flames out before we even go off the cliff, and if we go off the cliff, it's not such a dramatic thing, and it's more of a controlled descent. And look, if we had allowed the shit to hit the fan in 2008, we would have been on our way back already from it. We didn't. So it's going to be that much worse, but it's not anything that you can't survive. And the one thing that pisses me off, and yes, things could go very bad. Everybody out there warning about that is completely accurate. But the one thing that's pissing me off is everybody flipping out and trying to scare people. Oh my God, it's coming! You have no idea what's going to happen! You know what? Stop acting like an a-hole and just educate people as to what's going to happen. Because there's no need to put out that type of fear either, because now you're just acting like the government when you do that.
You're doing the same stuff that the mainstream media does. And that's the same thing that television does. You're appealing to people's emotional, irrational side of their brain. You're playing on fear, which is exactly how the majority of our countrymen are controlled through fear. And, if you're aware of it and you prepare the best you can and take every step you can possibly take to get ready, then it's not scary anymore. And that's something that I know a lot of people just, they don't even get that far. They stay in the fear cycle because that makes money. That brings in new people, and it doesn't let them leave either.
Well, see, that's why I put out solutions as much as I can, and I tell people to think with logic, because that'll get you through it. Look, this stuff's scary, no doubt. When the shit hits the fan, it is not going to be pretty. And there are going to be times that'll give you anxiety. But if I can at least get you to act with logic and think with logic now, when it does happen, at least you'll be mentally prepared on how to handle yourself. It's like that's what they do in boot camp. That's what they do in any type of training when you get ready. The reason why you train is so that it becomes second nature. It's common sense. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hour 1 up, hour 2 coming up. Don't go anywhere. Ryan and I will be back in a few short minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is October 26th, 2012. Joining me for hour number 2 is my guest co-host this evening, Sergeant Ryan Brooks, who you can hear right here on the Orion Talk Radio Network 5 days a week from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He's got his own broadcast called The Sound of Freedom. And Ryan does an excellent, excellent job. Very good job you do, Ryan. I'm very proud of you, lad.
Well, thank you, Popeye. And I just want to say a special hello to all the thought criminals in the chat room. Double plus good, my friends. Keep up the doublethink.
Double plus good.
I'll see you guys at the joy camps.
That's what they're going to turn FEMA camps into. I've said this before. People are like, well, do you think they'll have to round a lot of people up? No. The mass public they won't have to round up, because they'll create hell on earth outside of the camp. And then inside the camp you'll have Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's, whatever else is in there, movies, a quote-unquote safe place to be away from the craziness outside and all the crazy people. They're going to make it look like a shopping mall, but it's going to be like the Roach Motel. Once you check in, you do not check out.
I hear you there. And another thing, just after talking with people, I volunteered a lot for Ron Paul, and I did polls and called thousands of people asking who they would vote for during the primaries. And I talked for months everywhere I'd go. How do you feel about Ron Paul? Just, really just diehard Ron Paul. And so many people, Popeye, were like, it was shocking to me. They either would all say pretty much the same things. Either I like him and he can't win, or, and here's the kicker here, Ron Paul's okay, but it's his crazy supporters. Those supporters are insane. And I had an alarmingly large amount of people say that, even friends of mine who still love Obama or whatever, and they think that they're trying to be nice by talking about crazy Uncle Ron. But I realized then that so many people think the worst part about Ron Paul is his supporters. Imagine what would happen if a Ron Paul supporter did something, or if they said a Ron Paul supporter did something. Where I'm going, Popeye, is that, we heard about people are going to be labeled, the preppers are going to be labeled as terrorists and all of this. It shouldn't take a genius to figure that out. That's how they divide and conquer, by labeling one group of people and sicking the masses on them. And that's kind of where we're at as far as, do you want to go down the path of aggressive resistance, although you're still fighting in a system that's pretty much dead? And things that can't go on forever won't. This system will die whether we go out and protest or not. Or do you just want to go with the flow and just prepare for the inevitable and be able to ride through that and protect your family, protect your friends, and try to get to this new awakening?
I think you can have a mix of both, but you have to sit and you have to use logic. My way of looking at things is not the end-all, be-all, and I am far from perfect. But I don't think that we even need to let it get to that. Everybody's like, I don't see a way out of this without violence. Well, I do. But the problem is, everybody has to grow up and we have to evolve. And then you get people that argue, well, that's not going to happen. So the only way around this is violence. So, well, if we look at it that way, then you're right. If we start thinking about things that way, then you're right. Things we won't evolve because we've shot ourselves in the foot right off the bat before we even go anywhere. It's like I used to have this argument with my wife years ago because we've been together a long time. And when we were just dating, she used to say to herself a lot, I can't. And then she wouldn't. And I said to her one day, you know what your biggest problem is? And she was all pissed off, and I forget exactly what it was about, but we were fighting. And I said, do you know what your biggest problem is? You're your biggest enemy. And once she realized that it was her that was stopping her, not some invisible force or the man or anybody else that was putting her down, it was her that was putting her down. And once she got out of her own way, her life drastically changed. And I'm not saying, that I'm on the all wise one. I had to come to the same conclusion in my life. I had to go through everything, any experience that I try to pass the knowledge, if I've gone through something, I try to pass on the knowledge that I've gained from that experience. Anytime I ever do that on air or in my personal life or anybody I know, it's not something that I'm just talking about because I'm looking on the sidelines going, well, this is what I would do, being an armchair quarterback. I speak from I've gone through it myself. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think you're making great points. I mean, we're not hearing this enough, in my opinion. And, once again, I'm not bashing on anybody else, but just from the research I've done, and I understand the wise man knows how little he knows. I'm learning every day. I'm not better than anybody else than who I was yesterday. But what I'm getting at is I feel like now, just looking at things where they're at and where I'm at, it's more of a success. It's more of a victory. It's more productive, and it hurts the elite more once your mind is totally free and you're aware of everything that you're doing, whether it serves to enslave you further or serves to control you, or if it serves to free you. And I mean, Papa, I tried quitting cigarettes for a long, long time, and it wasn't until I started thinking like that I could finally break myself of that habit. But I feel like with that type of mentality and just doing everything you possibly can to not continue to serve this system, and that means even doing whatever you can to just opt out of the dollar as much as you can. And I know that's really hard, but things like that hurt this system much more than doing things like, I don't know, like protesting in front of the Fed. I mean, do you think that some of the most powerful people in the world are going to change their ways because some people are outside yelling at them? You see what I'm saying?
Well, of course not. And see, when you hear people, like I've heard people, call for armed rebellion or get up and physically arrest these guys. That's what they're waiting for. They're prepared for that. What they're not prepared for is if everybody evolved and made them irrelevant. That's how we beat this. We need to evolve, change the way we think about things.
Right.
And I don't mean change for the bad. I mean change for the better and grow up. And you know what? Their way of control goes out the window immediately. It's like being bullied, right? And you're in this box where you're like, oh my God, this guy controls everything. He runs the school. I'm so afraid. If you finally stand up to that bully and make that bully realize that he's irrelevant, I don't fear you. One of the key things, and this is going to sound like a weird place to learn something from, Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Freddy Krueger controlled everything, right? He could come to your dreams. He could make all sorts of weirdness happen. He could be all sorts of forms and shapes and monsters and eating people and slicing them up with his claw and all this other stuff and killing them and doing all this horrid stuff. Unless the person didn't fear him. And then suddenly, he didn't have any power whatsoever, did he? As soon as they said, I don't fear you anymore. I am not afraid of you. What happened to Freddy Krueger's power? Gone. Instantaneously. Now all of a sudden he could not hurt that individual. Well, it's the same thing. They use that fear to control everybody. Oh my God, when the dollar collapses, why do you think they talk about it? A lot of people think, yeah, some of it is because the alternative media brings it up so they have to talk about it to remain relevant to a certain degree. But when they talk about it, it's always, they put out that fear. You better buy gold. You better buy silver. Yes, it's good to have gold and silver if you have a decent amount of money saved and you've gotten all your bases covered with food and ammo and stuff like that, and batteries, anything you need to survive if the shit hits the fan. get some gold and silver and stuff. But just running to gold and silver blindly is not going to solve the problem. You know, a lot of people think, I know people that are like, I bought gold, silver. So, you know, when it hits the fan, I'm good. But are you prepped? Do you know how to live if there's no electricity? Do you have candles? Do you have sternos to cook on? What's a sterno? What do you mean, what's a sterno? Don't you have a Boy Scout little camping stove? I have one. Everybody, my friends have laughed at me. Why do you have an old camping stove? Well, how do you think I'm going to cook if the power goes out, morons? I have a case of sterno cans.
Right. And I'll tell you, man, great points. And I talk to people about buying silver, and I don't tell them to go to a specific company or anything like that. And you're right on the money as far as you better have your food and your protection and all of your survival equipment. I mean, I like to practice it every now and again with the family. We turn the power off for a couple of days on the weekend or something, and that'll give you a good idea of how ready you are. When you do things like that, you can kind of say, okay, well, I was sucking. I didn't have enough light, or we went through batteries really fast. I mean, you can learn your lessons. But ultimately, once you have this greater understanding of what's going on, I mean, you're going to be, you know, you're addicted to life, to learning, to seeing how incredible and beautiful this planet is. And you understand that, you know, love, and this is my opinion once again, love to me is the only other truth. It is the only truth. And you see all these people being mean to each other and just road rage, treating each other like garbage. It's a lot harder to just take that and say, hey, how you doing? Because you understand people are just trying to be happy, but at the same time, like you said at the beginning of the broadcast, you know, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing, and that's why I've went from being scared of a collapse or you know, depressed about it to, all right, I'm going to do everything I can to prepare. It takes the fear factor out of it, and it's actually something that I can just kind of be like, all right, when it happens, I'm ready. And ultimately, although it'll be painful, I do feel like it can be beneficial to civilization, to humanity. We're going to have to go back a little bit, but I think it'll direct us in the right direction.
Honestly, I don't think we'd have to go back. You know, a lot of people put out there that, oh my God, the grid's going to go down and holy shit, it's going to be Mad Max. Ah! You know what? Yeah, there are a lot of people that are unprepared. And I've said it many times. We've played the video joking around before, and sometimes even in seriousness, of Popeye's chicken. They were giving away free chicken, and they ran out of chicken. And I think it was somewhere up around Rochester. I've played the video before on air when we back on WTF, and Jimmy's played it on air as well a few times. And these people are flipping out because they can't get free, you know, garbage food, fast food chicken, and they're, you know, yelling into a. Yeah. One woman's flipping out, yelling into a microphone, and the store is closed. Man. Well, those are the people that are going to go to the FEMA camps. Okay, there's a certain percentage of the population you can't control. That's one of the biggest things people need to get over is I find a lot of times when you get into this, you know, you try to save everybody right off the bat. You know what I mean? And you, oh my God, if I could just, I understand the motivation behind that, but there are going to be people that honestly are not ready. Now, you can put the information out there, and you can make it a point, do everything in your power to, you know, make them understand that it's important. But at the end of the day, you can't force them to understand this. And there is a certain section of the population, whether you like it or not, that we have to accept isn't going to do this. They're going to go into the camps. So if all hell broke loose and that was the only option, yeah, there are people that would just rather go into the camps. But honestly, I don't think it has to be that bad. And I know we're surrounded by a lot of garbage and doom and gloom and everything else, but you know what? I don't think it has to be that bad. You know, a lot of people are like, it's gonna suck no matter what, the end of the world. Ah! No, it doesn't have to be like that. If we keep mentally making it that image, then yeah, it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Mm-hmm. Why can't we all just see that we need to evolve? And then this can be handled in a complete different way that people aren't even looking at yet, because people are still stuck in the it's either this or it's that. You know, it's just like, well, I'm either going to vote for Romney or Obama. You know, if you're willing to look outside the box for a third party presidential candidate, look outside the box for a way to solve your issues too. It's not just an A or B situation. A lot of times there's multiple different ways to think something could be solved other than what you think, and just acting on what we've been trained and programmed to act like, you know? I mean,
Yes.
it's amazing, dude. When you start to look, I know you yourself. For me, it's cool because I get a chance to see, your awakening, since you've been here at the network, and even you yourself have had an awakening. And it's interesting because, like, from an outsider's perspective, I can see that, once you get a tidbit of truth, you follow it to the next piece, to the next piece, to the next. And I've watched you actually change the way you think about things because you see the evidence presented to you and you go, okay, well, I was wrong. And that's good to accept that because that's part of the process of this evolution. Now, if everybody would just start to go along that line, it'll affect things in your personal life. You and I were talking about getting rid of cell phones and stuff the other day. I'm moving out to the middle of nowhere. You've just moved out to the middle of nowhere. When you start to apply these changes to your life, isn't it amazing how actually things, like the things that used to irritate you, I'll bet 6 months ago, don't even piss you off anymore. The needless little bullshit things that you probably used to get irritated at, you're like, wow, why did that even bother me?
Right, and you're spot on, man. I mean, where I'm at today, and I was talking about this on my show a couple days ago, like I started kind of, mentally kicking myself just because I live in like a beautiful part of the state that I'm in. I mean, there's just like forest, luscious forest all around me. And I stay inside if I'm not careful because I'm on the computer searching for articles and trying to put my show together. When it's like, you know what? I've had times where I walk out there with a Henry David Thoreau book sitting in the middle of the woods, just chilling, just relaxing. And you just, man, another thing we're out of touch with now. I mean, just the personal, I'm kind of losing my train of thought, but just that connection you get with Mother Nature. You know what I mean?
Your humanity and your connection with the universe around you, bro. I know exactly where you're going with it. You're right on point. You're right.
Instead of us being encouraged to do that, no, we're forced fed. As soon as we're old enough to watch television, that's when it starts, and it continues until the day you die if you let it. That force feeding of America's the best country in the world. We're better than everybody else. We have this arrogance amongst us, and when the dollar dies or when we have a major crisis, that arrogance, people are going to turn on each other because we still are conditioned to believe that the little people that aren't as good as us, they need to sacrifice. They need to do what needs to be done for our benefit. And that's something that's a sickness, a cancer, a result of the way that we've been, just a result of our society and where we've gone. And that's something that the collapse will wipe away. I mean, it'll happen for a while, but then those people are going to die off, or they'll get right.
No, you're right. It'll trigger it. Now that's when the choice that Cooper talked about comes in. Do we, as humanity, say, well, I'd rather go to the camps and be controlled, or do we just evolve and make that form of control irrelevant? See, that's the beautiful part. You don't need an armed revolution. Everybody's like, well, I don't see any other option, because you're looking at it. It's either A or B. You're still inside the damn box. You're not realizing to just stand up. It's like sitting inside of a box, right? And maybe 2 or 3 inches above your head is where the walls of the box go up to. And you don't even realize that there's no lid. You've just mentally convinced yourself that there's a lid there. So you always live in the confines of this box. But if you just stood up, you would realize that you're 3 or 4 foot taller than the walls of the box you were just sitting in.
Right.
And that suddenly, wow, there's so much openness. There's so much more freedom. There's many different ways to look at something. And that's it. That's the key to this. It's as simple as that. Everybody's like, oh, that'll never work, Popeye. Oh, so, okay. So that'll never work. So we have to have armed revolution, or we have to have, we have to go down into this Orwellian police state. We can't have option C or maybe D or E. No, it always has to be one or the other. You can't be. It's almost like people they can't mentally contemplate more than A or B. You ask them to take on a third choice, and oh no, what do I do? It gets frustrating. Look, we have a choice, and I really think that we have a chance, that we don't have to have this armed conflict, end of the world Mad Max scenario that everybody keeps trying to paint. It really pisses me off because there's not enough people out there saying we don't have to have this. And if they do, they're saying, get out there and protest. And it's not just that. We need to evolve. Tell people to change the way they think. Oh, now, Popeye, what are you trying to, mind control people? No. I'm trying to get you to change the way. Don't think from that base consciousness level. I mean, I've done enough broadcast on this stuff for people, most of my listeners understand where I'm coming from when I say that. We need to look at things and, don't, you walk down the street, you know what it starts with? The change starts with you walking down the street and you see some homeless person on the street and it's raining. If you have an umbrella, give the guy your umbrella, or give him a piece of cardboard or something maybe he could hold over his head, or give him, if you don't want to give him $1, you know what I used to do? I didn't like giving the bums money down when I lived in South Beach, because a lot of times they would go buy alcohol with it. So I'd go buy them like a hot sandwich, or I'd buy them some pizza. Now some people, I had friends that would be like, well, I'm surprised you, because I also got in fights with some of the crackheads and stuff. If they got out of line, or if they tried to get frisky with somebody that worked there, or whatever the case may be. But if there were a couple of them that were vets, and regardless of, I would counsel them if we got in the conversations and try to push them to, go get better, take better care of themselves and stuff. But instead of buying them alcohol, I would be a human being, and sometimes I'd buy them a sandwich or a slice of pizza and a soda. There was this little old lady that she was homeless for years, and she used to walk around sweeping. We used to call her a sweeper. She used to sweep literally the sidewalks with all the flyers and stuff. And when we asked her why, she said, well, I live on the streets. The streets are my home. I want to keep them clean. So here's this homeless woman who would sweep the sidewalks and clean up. And kids would laugh at her and stuff. I caught 2 kids stealing her folding chair from her one day, and I nearly killed them right on the spot. I'm gonna tell you, I had the one kid by his throat, dude. He was turning blue. I shook the living shit out of him on the side of the street there. Because she was in her 80s at the time, like late 80s, and homeless, and nobody would take care of her. So I'd go buy her a soda, or buy her some pizza once in a while, or buy her a bagel and a cup of coffee if it was chilly. That's all I could do. I was, I had no money at the time. I was broke, but at least you tried to make a difference. And if more people did that kind of stuff, you know how different the world would be? You wouldn't have so many cynical assholes walking around. You wouldn't have the negative energy that's out there, and the attitude that allows people to be used for things like more war or division amongst the populace. They wouldn't be able to control anybody.
Right.
At all.
And I'm just seeing it here, Pop. I've been holding back because Chris is saying some great stuff in the chat, and I agree with him. And I'm pretty sure you will, too. I'll just repeat what he was saying, We won't turn on each other or turn each other into FEMA camps if we already have a popular, local, organic, usury-free community currency, barter systems, time banks, non-federal options. It's about waking up, coming together, getting involved in your community, and you can make it a heck of a lot better for yourself.
I agree. The biggest solution to all these problems is us. We are the solution, not the government, not some Superman figure. We'll be back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment of the Friday edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. And Ryan and I are discussing solutions. And going into the break, I said that you and I and Ryan and all of us, we are the solutions. Well, that is the truth. That is the base premise that I want you to understand out of anything. That you are the solution to the problem, not some dick in a suit on TV telling you, not someone ranting and yelling and screaming on their desk for attention and for ratings, and not anybody trying to peddle garbage to you. You are the solution. You are the solution to all these massive problems we have, and you are the solution to all of your own problems, as I am the solution to all of these larger problems, and I am my solution to my own issues, and Ryan is his own solution. As soon as we understand this, we start to take back our own power, our own individual power, and accept things and have responsibility for things. Because when you own up to things, it's amazing how you can learn from the experience. And you look at it much differently than if you're like, oh, it wasn't me. I didn't do that. It wasn't me. I have a family member who, when he was younger, we had a nickname for him. And I won't say his name because then it would give it away, but it was ended with no fault. So we would say his name and then no fault. And it was because everything that he did was never his fault. I mean, he was the kind of person that when he was a kid, I would literally watch him break something in front of me, and he'd be like, I didn't do that. And I was like, dude, I just watched you do it. I didn't do that. You know what I mean? And if you live your life like that, I know adults that are still like that. You know, it's all this person's fault, or it's the government, or it's my ex-wife, or my ex-husband, or my boss, or my kids, or this or that, or when I was in the military. Everything is always someone else's fault. There's always excuses being made. There's never solutions. And if you're constantly offering excuses for the bad things that happen in your life, and you're not sitting down trying to figure out how to not have the same thing happen again, or how to have a different outcome, then you're going to constantly be going through that nasty cycle. You know what I mean?
Right, and that's like the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting some type of different outcome. And with our television, with even some of the alternative media, I mean, they just promote that never-ending circle. And while we're running in that circle, being controlled and not really seeing how, the reality of this life that we live in, we're being bamboozled and misdirected and misguided and just kind of herded along, But I agree with you, Popeye. It does, the problems start and stop with us. This is a collectivist problem that we have, and I believe the only way we're going to be able to solve it is with individual. It's a revolution of your mind, realizing that you do have the power. You have the positive energy, and when you start getting into that kind of mentality, you focus on the here and now. You are fully living right now, in the here and now. You're not living in the past or regretting or getting upset about the past. You're not fearing or just getting all beat up about the future. You are living in the moment. And to me, would you agree with me, Popeye? Isn't that what life's all about? Just like truly getting the most out of every minute you're alive, just taking it all in, living it up. Isn't that closer to why we're here?
Well, you're supposed to learn. We're here to learn, and yeah, you have to go through negative experiences and stuff, but we're not here to wake up and be a slave. At a very young age, I realized that there had to be more to life than getting up every day and working 8 to 10 hours a day, sometimes maybe even 12, to come home, to be exhausted and not have time to do anything else in your life because you have to work. You got to work. You got to work. I have a family member that's like that. He's always got to work. You don't understand. I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. No, you're the one making it so. And I've tried to get that through to this person. Like, you are making you're your own worst enemy. Your problems, the biggest problems you have in your life, are not because of someone else. It's because of you. And that's the way it is with most of us. My wife, as I told you, her biggest issue was herself. Once she realized she was her own worst enemy, and she accepted that and realized how she was being her own worst enemy, things changed. Same thing with myself. Same thing with everybody else I know that's ever applied that. If you look at yourself and you start to say, you have to own up for things, dude. The first step is, like, if you make a mistake, don't try to immediately, and I've seen people do it even if they don't mean to. I know, and if you do this stuff, it doesn't mean you're an asshole or anything, by the way, either. It's just, a lot of this has to do with the conditioning and the programming that we've been put through. So it's almost like it's a natural reaction, like muscle memory. Well, it's the same thing. If I see a lot of people that their natural reaction to things is to not want to take blame for it. You know what? You have to condition yourself out of that. I still do it to this day. I don't like taking blame when I screw up. I hate screwing up. I can't stand it. I get mad. I don't like taking blame for stuff. But you know what? I find that when I do take blame for things, and I have applied this to my own personal life, myself, different situations, whatever. And I'm going to tell you what, it works. It really does. And I'm not trying to be some infomercial type douchebag, trying to sell you any tapes or anything like that. I don't have anything to sell you. I'm just telling you, I couldn't tell you what you have to do. Everybody's an individual basis, but if you start just looking into yourself for the solutions to your issues, you'll realize that once you start to do it on the micro, just like the law of correspondence says, and like that's why the Freemasons use it, because they understand how things work, as above, so below, in the micro, in the macro. So if you start to apply this stuff to your personal life, you will naturally be applying it to other things and other aspects, the way you vote, the way you look at, people running your life. It'll just evolve. That's the way it is. And I've seen it in you, Ryan. Again, you're a perfect example. I've seen it in you. I've seen you literally apply this stuff, and I've seen the changes, the positive outcome to your life. So I have to say, you are like a case study.
Right, and I'm just thinking about when Brandon Robb got carried away. That Marine sergeant who got carried away for his Facebook posts and kind of, indefinitely detained, put in the mental home for a little while and got taken out. And that's when I called you. Like, I was freaking out. I was not nearly where I am today. And that was only a couple of months ago. As far as, oh, man, it's happening. They're going to show up anytime. Oh, my gosh. Oh. And you're like, yo, hey, man, hey, that's exactly, where they want you to be. Be scared, be fearful. You just need to let it be. It's it's up to you whether you're going to make the best out of it or if you're just going to kind of let it ruin you, let it drive you crazy, let it make you paranoid, let it destroy the time that you have here and now. And being that we're doing a radio broadcast right now, I have electricity. I have a beautiful family. I even have a cool dog. I mean, all these things are things that I need to just spend as much time appreciating and loving right now because, it'll just, when we don't have electricity and things of that nature, we'll look back on these times and think these were the good times, and we don't want to regret that, we didn't live it up while we could, Well, you people should enjoy the majestic things that life brings them, Go out in nature and look at a butterfly. I've done the simplest things of just walking around and, where I live right now. During the spring, we had a lot of butterflies. And into the summer, we had a lot of butterflies flying around. A lot of monarch butterflies, these big orange ones. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I would take, if I was out with the dog, I would take 5 minutes and I would go and I would watch them. And my dog is cool. She would just sit and chill, and she would look at them. And even just taking her for a walk, I'll take her out, and I'll take her out for a 10-minute walk and just to enjoy a quiet walk with my dog. Just me and her walking, listening to nature. We have ducks because there's a pond behind my apartment. We have ducks that come up. I was outside yesterday for like 5 minutes feeding the ducks. There's a stray cat that lives in the complex that a couple of us in the complex take care of. And I give him food and stuff. It's the simple things. I find joy in that kind of stuff. I find, it kind of keeps me in balance. It keeps things in perspective for me to be able to, go on air and talk about all this stuff and reach as many people as we do, and then go outside and, feed this homeless cat and just be human again. You know what I mean? Yes, and man, just so much good conversation, Popeye. It's hard for me to believe the show's almost over, but I'm with you 1,000%. I mean, and I'm not saying that I do this all the time. I don't do it enough. But when was the last time that you went out, out into the woods or somewhere away from the city and just looked up at the sky when there's no chemtrails and geoengineering and clouds, but just looking up at the sky and looking at the stars, going camping and not like trendy hip camping with your Cadillac Escalade and your huge pop-up tent with a portable sink and all. No, like going in the woods and just enjoying the serenity of the planet that we live on, that connection that we have with nature. Like you said, just looking at wildlife. I mean, I've got this camera. I just go outside. I got, fall is in full effect over here. All these different leaves changing colors and just the sunset, the sunrise, things that, even today in our schools and stuff, if you're into that, you're like a nerd. Like in high school, who wants to be into photography? That's like for geeks, man. I'd rather be playing football. I mean, but hey, man, stuff like that really is things that are just going to help you set your mind at ease and realize that how small we are on this small planet in this solar system, in the universe. And they don't want us to be thinking about that. They want us to be living on the internet with this virtualistic, narcissistic world that revolves around me, fake fantasy reality personality that we put out there with social networking and our things like that. So just get back to nature, man. And this is exactly what you're saying. That also helps a lot. That's why I'm moving out to the middle of nowhere, dude. And where I'm going, like, there is nothing. I'm going to have nothing but nature in my backyard. In fact, my landlord discussed with me because there is
a portion of a swamp behind on the back half of the property. He's like, you're probably going to have to be wary of gators. I said, yeah, that's cool. I live by the Everglades now, and I know it's a little different because it's it's an apartment complex. I said, but it won't be anything for me to get rid of the gator. I'll do what I got to do. And see, where I'm moving to, if I had to walk out in the backyard and shoot a gator because it was in the backyard and it was threatening, I couldn't get it out of the backyard and I had to resort to that. Well, it wouldn't be, oh my God, you discharged a firearm. It would, your neighbors don't think anything of it. When I was up there looking at houses, it was a Saturday, it was a weekend, and on the Saturday, all you heard in the background, we were walking around was ka-ka, ka-ka, ka-ka. Ka-ka-ka-ka. In the background, my wife's like, what is that? I'm like, that's not fireworks. I was like, that's gunfire, honey.
Yeah.
She's like, really? I'm like, yeah, that's rifle fire. Really?
Country.
Yeah. And you'd hear it. You could hear the report, the ka-ka, and you'd hear it echoing. And I'm like, yep. It just made me smile. Because and I'm not saying that people do, the people that live up there just go nuts and they go shoot everything. They were probably target shooting. But it's nice that you can be that out in nature. And at night, there's nothing because there's no streetlights out there. I can literally, where I'm moving to, I'm going to be able to walk out in my backyard and look up and see the sky. Of course, that's when they're not chemtrailing the hell out of it. But, when there's not chemtrails and anything else in the sky, I'll be able to see the stars. She couldn't believe it. We were walking around and she was amazed. She was like, look how clean the sky is out here. I said, yeah, I know. Because we've lived, the whole time we've ever been together, we've lived in the city. Where I live now is a little bit outside of the city, but it's still city-ish compared to where I'm going. And, it was a transition for both of us. We both had, and I'm not saying that you can go out and, be in, one with nature again tomorrow and all this other crap. We've been so, what's the word? Like addicted.
Domesticated?
Well, yeah, domesticated and addicted would be, actually, that's a good way to put it. Addicted to domestication. People have been so taken out of touch with that, being in touch with everything. And I'm not trying to be all new agey or anything like that. I mean, just go outside and walk around and tune out. Don't put on earbuds or listen to TuneIn or your cell phone. Don't take that crap with you. Leave everything in your house. And for like 20 minutes, just go to a park or something, or leave the phone in your car or whatever, and just walk around and listen to nature and try to just appreciate something natural on this planet. When I would look at the butterfly, I would look at it and I'd be like, it's tiny. It's amazing the thoughts that you have, because it's amazing when you actually pay attention to everything that's going on around you and how magnificent life itself really is. You really start to have a different take on things. You really do.
Definitely. I mean, that leads to you getting in touch with your spiritual side. And also, I see like A1 in the chat rooms talking about real camping is taking a backpack and going out in the backcountry. I mean, if the men out there, and even a hardcore woman, I mean, hey, you want to see what kind of, tough guy or gal you are. My girlfriend's over here like, excuse me, she's getting offended. So I'm not trying to offend people, but you want to see what you're made of? Do that. Get a backpack and go out there for a weekend and go camping in the backcountry. I mean, that'll just do so much for you. Kind of, and I know Theodore Roosevelt was kind of he wasn't necessarily a good president, but I did like how he embodied, or rather sets a good tone of just striving to better yourself, and that's what, to me, that's what life is all about now. Learning, striving to better yourself, learn something new every day, challenge yourself. Those are all things that are almost looked down upon. And to touch back to 1984, there's some people who can't even understand. It's like against their programming, like, what? You go in the woods by yourself with a backpack?
Well, you're not cool, dude. You're not.
That is just insane, dude.
You're a dork.
People in the Army tell me that. Combat arms.
You're a dork, bro. You're a geek if you would want to go out into the woods. Come on. It's just like if you do anything different, if you anything outside the box, that type of thinking, because we're conditioned through operant conditioning, like Pavlov did with the dogs from the time we're children, that anything outside what we're told is the norm is to be laughed at and made fun of, and if you do it, you're an a-hole. You know what I mean? And I think it's really telling. Again, people are like, "Oh, the military. I don't understand why they're because I was talking about yesterday. I was a guest on another broadcast, and I brought up the guy who I was talking with is retired Army. I mean, he's older generation from you, about 20 years, and I told him about the stress card thing, and he was floored. And I said, well, you have to understand where they're fishing. The pool they're fishing is not the same pool that we were fished from. Their generation, that generation is much different. They're already been pussified and all this other stuff. So by the time they get into the Army, the old ways of doing things aren't working. They're unresponsive to it because their conditioning up to that point, all throughout childhood, has them ready for something else. So now you can see that the military training had to fall in line with what they were, the pool they were fishing from, that they were getting their recruits from. And that's even more dangerous because now you have, like you've said multiple times, there are people out there that, they're flying drones, and a lot of these people that are, killing people with the drone strikes and stuff, these kids that are doing it, or these young soldiers or whatever, they're so out of it, they're so out of touch, they have no idea that the hell that they're bringing to this planet. And it's really a shame because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are acquiring the karmic debt, not the evil scumbags at the top who are pulling the strings. And those pieces of shit know that, and that's why they do things like that.
Yeah, and that's what motivates me to just continue to at least put the good word out there and just, make it available, because that's the thing that gets to me the most, Popeye, is that these systems that we either passively support or actively support, a lot of the times the people are tricked and fooled into thinking something that they're tricked into thinking that it's good, that it's a good system. They're fighting for freedom. They're becoming, a warrior. It's the most honorable thing that you can do for your country is go serve your country. But in reality, all they're doing is being soft-killed, serving for, who knows what, nothing good. We all know that at least. But these people believe they're doing good, and in the meantime, they're actually being used to enslave themselves and their own population even more. And that's the thing about it. Once again, get back to what you're talking about with just the kind of the mental evolution and just realizing the individual revolution of your mind and your actions. They can just give you so much more power, and I feel like it's such a bigger victory for you versus the elite and the social controllers, because that's the last thing they want, is for you to see things for what they are, and then start taking peaceful, non-compliant action as far as, hey, I'm going to opt out of the dollar. I'm that dedicated. I'm not going to spend a single piece of whatever currency I'm using, even if it's still dollars, on GMO food. I'm going to have a garden. Things like that hurt them a lot more than trying to fight in the system that's dead, man. It's dead. We're just waiting for it to fall over. And when it falls over, then we can start anew.
And it's not going to be, yes, it will be hard, but I don't think we should, again, and I'm going to put this out there again, I'm putting out positivity today. Okay, that's, Ryan and I have been trying to keep it low-key. We talked about the idiocy of things and stuff, but we've kept it mellow. And the second hour, we've been putting out, solutions and positivity, because that's what we need. I really believe that we can stop the train from going off the tracks in a flaming fireball. Yes, the system as it's set up now cannot continue, but there is a way to even make it a controlled descent. But the only way we can do that is if people evolve and start to realize that they are keeping themselves in this box. We need to realize that there is more than the four walls around us and the floor. There is no ceiling. We've mentally created this cap that's not there. We need you to step outside the box. It's as simple as that. And then once we evolve, dude, things will be much different.
And just, I know we're kind of running short on time, Popeye, so I'll kind of keep it short, but that's just where I'm going with this whole, elections and voting for people. Even if we elected, Ron Paul, Gary Johnson, a good person, they still wouldn't be able to save us. This is a lesson that humanity needs to learn, that the United States of America needs to learn, that other countries are learning as we speak. And only then are we going to be able to continue on this thing we call life and our learning experience. And I think that the experience from collectivism and debt and death, it's going to be a little painful for a while. but I don't think it's the end of the world. I have so much faith that we can do better. And, it just goes back to what Ron Paul said, be the change that you want to see on the world. And, you're going to be making a much bigger difference than you realize.
I agree. Well said, Ryan. Thanks for coming on tonight, man. As always, time just flies when you're on.
Anytime, brother. Happy to be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time. Make sure you tune back in Sunday. I'll be here 5 p.m., 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tune into Ryan's broadcast during the week, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Sound of Freedom. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. The lad does an excellent broadcast. All right, we're out of time. Ladies and gentlemen, love you all. We are out of here.